Welcome to EVH Gear Discussion, the weekly EVH talk show officially recognized by the Van Halen News Desk and sponsored by VanHalenStore.com. From Ontario, Canada, my name is Eric Broadbent, your host for this evening, and joining me from warm and sunny Florida is my esteemed co-host, Mr. Mark Hazansky. Mark, how you doing, buddy? And tell us what is happening tonight.
Hey, I'm doing great. And we have a very special guest tonight with us. We've got Peter Gusmano, and he's from Guitar for a Cure. And how you doing, Peter?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for joining us. I love your setup there. I know everybody else is going to say that as well.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate it. No, I really appreciate the invite. Big fan of your guys' show, and happy to join and chat and hang out for a bit on what's better on a Friday night.
Exactly. We always say in the show that we're the warm-up band for the weekend. We warm up your weekend.
I like that.
Get up on the Saturday morning, watch cartoons with the kids, and we're the warm-up band. So hopefully we'll do our job tonight.
I dig it.
We've been talking about this for a while, and we're really excited. Obviously, you have a lot of EVH influence. You're a big enthusiast like the rest of us, and everyone that's in the chat. They're here for one reason. They're not here to see Britney Spears. They're here to talk about Eddie Van Halen and whatever else. Mark
Britney Spears isn't here.
She's not here.
She was here a minute ago. She just
okay. All right, she went off camera. All right, that's cool.
It's amazing some of the stuff that's on YouTube. Mark and I were just talking off camera before you joined, and we're talking about all these crazy things you see, like from dryers blowing up, from people putting bricks in the dryer, and there's so much content on YouTube, whatever. Yeah. Have you guys seen this new fad that's out there before we get into the show? It's called ASMR, these sound videos. Have you seen this?
No.
They do this thing, and here again, I'm on YouTube every week, but I'm learning through my boy. They do these things with their sounds, and they have these very sensitive microphones left and right, and I guess people like this relaxation of the sounds. So they'll do something over here, they'll do something over here, they'll rip apart bread or whatever it is, but it's, yeah, look it up.
I was planning on doing that. I got a loaf.
Oh, there you go.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead. I'll close my eyes. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Can you tell me if it's rye or wheat?
Yeah, whole wheat, whole the rye. That's right. Yeah, or the pumpernickel, whatever. All right, enough of that stuff. So I have a bunch of questions. Mark has some questions as well. Let's get right into it. And what the cool thing is to start off the questions for you is I think you and Mark share something in common. You both started on drums. Tell us a little bit about that and what made the switcheroo into the guitar genre, or
Yeah, I'm originally from Long Island here. So I was born and raised here on Long Island. And as a kid, I just, I remember it like it was yesterday. It was weird. I wanted to get into music. I was a little kid. I thought it was interesting. I was tapping around all this stuff. And so my dad dropped me off at music class. And next thing you know, I was in there and I was learning how to play the drums when they asked everybody what they wanted to play. So I started out playing the drums in about third grade, and I've been playing my whole life. So it evolved from there. Everything from marching band to orchestra to jazz band to rock band to NISMA, which is New York State, won state medals and stuff like that. So it was actually pretty cool because looking back now, I don't know if I would have really probably. Although I wanted to play guitar growing up, it always intimidated the hell out of me. And drumming, for some reason, was something that kind of came a little bit more naturally for me then. And when I did start playing guitar, of course, I went to bass first because I think because of the drum tie-in. And then, obviously, migrated to the guitar. But, drumming has been my main thing for my whole life. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
Obviously, Mark, you'd appreciate this for sure too, but being a drummer, that I think, and I really wish I played drums growing up. Like when I'd go to band rehearsals and things like that, I would just get on my drummer's kit and try to make some noise. But I think it's a very good fundamental for every guitar player to have a sense of that, the timing, the rhythm, to know where to play in the pocket. Obviously, Eddie Van Halen, starting off as a drummer.
So, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because I think as a drummer, it's the same kind of you have to play with. You're either overplaying or you're playing in the pocket, or you're playing. There's a lot of different styles, and so I've always been like very groove oriented, which is why, like for example, with guitar, when I write, I tend to write the rhythm parts and the rhythm tracks first, and then think about a melody later. So that's just a little bit based on the style. But from the drumming standpoint, I definitely think it does factor into my, you know, my music and my approach. There's no two ways about it.
For sure. And Mark, both you guys, I'm going to ask you both this question. It's not on the list by any means, but just my own personal interest. I like seeing when I go watch a band, whether it's a jazz band or a rock band or whatever. Sometimes you look and you see the drummer up there. He's got a 3-piece or a 4-piece drum kit, and you're kind of like, and then all of a sudden you watch this drummer, and he or she is absolutely phenomenal. You don't have to, like, I play with some drummers where they've had 12, 16-piece drum kits, and they had to hit every single piece, or else they weren't doing their job. And you watch some of these guys on a 2 or 3-piece, 4-piece kit, and it's like, what the heck?
Well, I think that comes with that comes a little bit with age too. I think when I was growing up and we were teenagers and we saw, Tommy Aldrich or, Tommy Lee on this big thing. And of course, it's still so cool to see Mike Portnoy with those kits and these huge, huge drum racks and all this stuff. It's great. But I think as you got older, like, you start to appreciate these guys who have these smaller kits, and it's more about like their bass drum speed or the way they're able to play. I just think it's a maturing of the drum approach rather than like the enormity of the setup.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it, because I know for me, I've always been a smaller kit kind of guy. I never went beyond maybe 3 toms and 1 floor tom, so maybe 6 pieces totally. Yeah, I'd rather have more cymbals than I would.
I agree.
Drums, at least for me. I don't know if you've ever seen Terry Bozzio, but
I just saw him on that last tour at the Iridium in New York City with like the whole club was the kit. It's crazy.
It really is crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, but that's his thing, though. He's like a percussion. Like that's what he's going for. Is like perfect pitch of every.
Yeah. I mean, still, it's insane. I feel bad for his techs. But that's cool. Yeah, I agree with you. Probably more when you're younger, you want it more showy and more drums to hit and everything like that. So
yeah, and it's interesting because I just don't think as a kid growing up, like, not that I wouldn't have thought he was good, but like a drummer like Dennis Chambers, like, you recognize like just how insane he is. But I wasn't necessarily into that genre of fusion or music at that time, but whereas now there's so many other players that you just get opened up to that are not. Billy Cobham.
Yeah, I mean, I was always into him. He blew my mind. But he's another one. It's amazing groove,
crazy.
Great.
Simon Phillips.
He's one of my favorites.
My favorite. Yep.
Yeah, wasn't it funny too back in the 80s when they had the I don't know anything about drums, but everybody put the drums like facing you, like it was like playing like this. You remember that? And
like Eric Carr, Eric Carr was in this wall of.
Yes, exactly. The drums were just basically like vertical.
Yes,
which is very strange.
I know one thing about drums, that's not the traditional approach. That's the only thing I know. Yeah, good for you.
It's not supposed to be flat in front of you.
No, for sure.
But when Tommy Lee started doing his spinning and
roller coaster stuff,
that was crazy. Yeah,
that was cool. I mean, that was cool.
I mean, and I love it. And I think honestly, he's one of my favorite drummers. I think from a pure pocket standpoint, he's just an amazing player. But when you're younger, you're thinking about, oh, look, his thing is tilting over. Whereas now, I appreciate some of the other stuff that he's done, like his Methods of Mayhem project on the side, some other stuff, So.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
Very good. So the next question I had on the itinerary was, what was it about Eddie himself, his sound, his approach, whatever it was? What was it that grabbed your attention and made you listen to the man?
So it's interesting. So growing up as a drummer, I still had my entire room and walls were all guitarists. I grew up being just a fan of the guitar, even though I was a drummer. And I think the thing about Eddie was I remember picking up Van Halen 1 on vinyl and going back home and sitting in my room and putting the vinyl on and opening that sleeve and seeing those pictures. And I was just blown away by it was larger than life than anything else that I had ever heard at that point. And I think that, again, I wasn't really too much of an aficionado in terms of tone at the time or understanding, comparing guitarist tone. But I was really drawn more than anything else than the solos, more drawn, like everybody talks about, to the rhythm parts of it.
I'm glad you said that. Thank you.
And I just, you know, everybody, you see these things and you hear these documentaries and about Eddie's rhythm playing, but I think as a drummer, that's the thing that I like, and playing Van Halen tunes with my band and stuff like that, you really appreciate what those rhythm parts are, you know, and how simplistic but complicated it is, you know.
Yeah, because it made the rhythm might actually be rather simplistic, but what he's doing and changing it up, you know, none of his rhythm lines are basically the same. Anytime he changes it up almost every single time. And
so much of it is Alex. I mean, the guys. He you know, a lot of guys mention him as their favorite drummer, but he, you know, in all reality, tends to get overshadowed. But his grooves are amazing, and those two guys just worked in sync. So that was kind of the first thing that I picked up on about it. And of course, the main thing is that I just loved melodies. I mean, it was at a time when I was just getting into Kiss, and I'm a huge Kiss fan. And like, so I love melodies. I love songs, and you know, it wasn't just about the insane playing, but when it got to the solo, it got insane. But then it went back to the song. So it was.
So you're an Ace Frehley fan?
Fanatic.
Yes. You know, it's so funny. Like we put Eddie Van Halen and we put Ace Frehley on a scale, and it's going to tip. However, the cool factor with Ace Frehley, like that was my first guitar hero. Do you remember in the Kiss Alive albums that come with the trading cards and stuff like that? And I think they said, unless I'm crazy or I was doing something crazy at the time, which is quite possible. But I think they said, like, you know, with their boots and stuff like that, and they were like 50 feet tall. There were all these comic book type of, you know, nostalgia things. And it's like, oh man, and we'd fold out the records, we'd be listening to it and looking at the booklets. And I mean, that was it. I mean, they certainly did things well. They marketed themselves insane.
I mean, it was insane. I mean, you know, you get the love gun, you get the 4 interchanging posters, you get, you know, all these things, the tattoos and all that stuff. And I took that, I took that to a level larger than life, because I as a collector as well. So I collect all the Kiss stuff. It's kind of like my passion to do that. So they just were a major influence. But at the time, it was again the same thing. It was a song with a dominant guitar role in it. So that's kind of what drew me to Eddie. And I just became an absolute fanatic of the band and the songs and the way that they were. And my first tour that I was able to see them was 1984.
Fantastic.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I wish I had seen them on that tour.
That's what was my first tour as well, too. And before I go into a little further note about the Kiss thing, just a little news ticker came in from Mark. Mark says we broke 2,500 subscribers on YouTube. Thank you, everyone. Woo! All right, celebration. That's a nice milestone. That's not your 10,000. Awesome. Yeah, that's very good. Celebration.
Awesome. Red Solo Cup for that right there.
Yeah. I could just, I won't say the bad word right now, but I could just picture Dave Chappelle right now. Celebration. Whatever. I'll leave that word off there. Starts with a B. But you know what's really cool about the Kiss thing? So me, myself, and a good mutual friend, he was my very first drummer ever. He was the Kiss fan. I think he probably turned me on to Kiss. And he was probably, I think he's about 3 or 4 years younger than me. And he had Kiss everything on his walls, all the posters, all that kind of stuff. And the really cool stuff like an Empire State Building, all the vintage stuff. And his house burnt down, horrible thing. Well, it didn't burn down. It caught on fire, like pretty much destroyed. So all the posters were all soot. My parents wouldn't let me have anything Kiss. They refused it. They weren't religious or anything like that, but they didn't like Kiss. And so he gave me his posters from the house fire. And I literally wiped them down with rags, trying to wipe off the soot because they didn't burn up. They were just covered in soot. And I tried to wipe the stuff off, and it was just so funny. But trying to listen to the through the headphones at night. But that's something kids today, whether it's Van Halen or anything, because Van Halen had some cool records in the day with fold outs and stuff like that too. They'll never experience that today. We got our iTunes and stuff like that, but they will never, ever, ever experience that. And you listen to David Lee Roth talking about the days of flipping out the double record and using it for whatever he's using to collect in the middle. But we'll never experience that ever again.
It's actually what's wonderful about it is that when I think back to those times, if I ever need to find myself just stressed or anxious, I take myself back to that time. And it was such a me time to sit down with the records and just stare at the thing and listen to the music. It really was it was really just a complete escape from everything else. So, I could kind of, you mentioned that it's like I had my Kiss collection, so much of it just moved over from a storage place recently. And before Hurricane Sandy, I had just put it temporarily in my garage. The storm hit, and so much of my stuff got destroyed.
Oh no! Do you have insurance for it, or
they don't? No, I mean that kind of stuff. No, so it was like
can't even replace it.
The original dolls, every tour book.
I had those.
That's
so multiple sets of things. But you know what? I mean, I still was able to salvage some stuff, but and I still had some other stuff. But you know, you can't take away the meaning of the bands. You know, and I've seen them. I don't know, 40 some odd times. I mean,
oh wow, that's great.
Fanatic, yeah.
I've only seen them a couple times, and here's a question for both of you guys: have you? I have not met any of the guys in Kiss. I've met quite a few celebrities and had a lot of fun. Mark and Peter, have you met them?
I have not.
I have met them. I've met Paul. I've met Gene. I've met Ace, and I don't think I've met Peter. Paul, interestingly enough, I met when I went to go see him playing in the lead. I did a road trip up to Toronto when he was playing in the lead, Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so at the Pontage Theater, I went up and saw 3 of the shows, and of course, you know, as a fanatic, you're in there with all these Kiss fans, meeting theater fans. It was like you saw like Gene Simmons shirts, but then next to a family that was all dressed up going to the theater. But it was incredible. It was a great experience. So after one of those shows, I was hanging around back, you know, outside, and Paul came out, and we spent it was so cool because he didn't want to really talk about Kiss. He only wanted to talk about the Phantom of the Opera, you know, what he was doing, and it was just such a cool experience. But I've also met him at the Kiss conventions. I've met Gene before. I've met Eric Singer, Bruce. I met Ace before. They're awesome. I mean, you know, great guys.
I'll tell you a funny story. When Mark and I were at NAMM, and you know, I could just hide the story and not say it. It's an embarrassing story about me.
You're gonna tell the story?
I'm gonna tell the story. Why not? I'm not hiding any skeletons here in the closet. Okay. And it wasn't because I'm a complete freaking moron. It's because I had a moronic moment. Where, you know what NAMM's like? We're at NAMM.
I had a moment like that too. So
yeah. Okay. So let's get it clear. So who was it? Tommy Thayer walks by, literally like as close as me to the screen. I'm like, Bruce Gillett. And I'm like, stuck up bastard. Sorry, bad language. He didn't say hi, didn't wave. Oh man. I said to Mark, I said, I'm such an idiot. You know, it happens all the time, right? It's just, I wasn't thinking, I was in the moment, and total rock star. He looks like a rock star. He totally, you know, but I was like, Bruce. Because you know what? I was talking to Bruce a while back on Facebook about coming on the show, and I'm maybe just thinking,
they
you know,
look alike.
All those post Ace guys all blend together after a while. They're all kind of the same look in a way, and
he was very similar. And my story was I mixed up Greg Howe for Tony McAlpine.
Yeah,
so
it happened.
So as Greg Howe was walking by, I thought it was Tony McAlpine. So I stopped him. I didn't say his name. I'm like, hey, how's it going? I said, I'd love to take a picture with you. Do you mind? And then I look down and I see, oh, it's Greg Howe. And it's not Tony McAlpine.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah. And I mean, I like both those guys. They're both great. But, you know, I don't know.
It's the spur of the moment. It's the anxiety that hits.
Exactly.
I've even had it before too. I've had some people from over in Europe come over and say, "Hey, Spinal Tap," and no, it's not. I'm not the bass player. I'm not Derek.
That's awesome.
Derek Smalls. There you go.
Derek Smalls.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So next question I have on the itinerary is, I've seen a lot of photos that you have of yourself and playing the PV Wolfgangs. You've got some of the EVH and stuff like that. So my question for you is, tell us kind of the mindset and what do you think about the evolution from the Ernie Ball Music Man to the PV to where we are today with EVH gear? Kind of share your thoughts on the whole gamut.
Yeah. So when I started playing, I was an Ibanez guy. Like, I just love Ibanez. I had 10, 12, 15 Ibanez RGs or gems and stuff like that. And I just absolutely loved them, and they were fantastic. But there was a point in time where I actually remember what it was. I went to a Gem Fest, which was one of those, you know, Steve Vai, Ibanez weekend things. And some guy got on stage and he was playing a white Wolfgang with the black binding. It was a PV, and he was just shredding on that thing, and it sounded amazing. and I just was like, wow, that's really cool. So after the performance of the guy, I went up and I said, can I check out that guitar? And I was just, I don't know, I was really like blown away by the feel of the neck. It was definitely different than the whole Ibanez Wizard thing that I was used to. So I ended up, when I started playing, I found a place out here on Long Island who had some new old stock of some PV Wolfgangs that they just had sitting in case, which were like year 2000 models. And I went there, and he had a white one, he had a tobacco one, and I remember I picked up the white one, and then I went back for the tobacco one. And I had them both, and then I just tended to gravitate to the white one for some reason or another. Amazing necks, a couple of things. I mean, the bridge on it I thought was pretty cool, but I couldn't deal with the trem arm, the feeling that it's a threaded arm that goes in rather than a cup.
Yep.
So I ultimately replaced the socket on it to be more like your traditional Floyd arm.
I like that better too.
But yeah, but the necks on them were amazing. So of course you got some that were crazy bird's eye. You could get, you know, there were flame tops, there were all this, but I always loved the antique white look with the black binding. So I picked up that guitar. It's been my main guitar ever since I've started playing, from a standpoint of it's on every song I've recorded. I tend to gig with it. It's either that or my Stealth. So when you say what's the difference, clearly the new EVH gear to me is incredibly inspiring, very comfortable fit for me. And but when I think about it compared to the PV, a lot of guys just love the PV. There's just something about them that they love. It's weird. I consider my Stealth US EVH like my #1, but I also consider the PV my #1 in a way. They're different in some respects. I feel like the necks are a little bit slightly different. I also swapped out my pickups in the white one for Duncan 78s.
Okay, that's cool.
I love that pickup.
Which are, I don't know what it is. They're just magic, those pickups. They're pure magic. And I had a set, a neck and a bridge, and I just love them. I just absolutely love them. So that's kind of been like the road horse, the white one, from a standpoint of, you know, it's get dinged, it gets, you know, whatever. That's kind of like what it is, that one. Whereas my Stealth, I've just now grown to, over the last few years, I just love ebony. You know, the feel of ebony. It feels great. It just feels great. There's just something about it. So there's definitely been a migration. I've played, and I did own at one point an Ernie Ball Music Man version of it. Phenomenal guitar. Was the amber one that most of us had.
Beautiful.
Someday I'll probably get one of those again. But I tend to love the PV and the EVH stuff, the new stuff.
That's good to hear, and it's really funny too. We, you've seen on some of the shows I play you can see it back here a little bit. The amber one, that's a hardtail. But last night, and actually for the past little bit, I've been doing some recording, and some of the stuff is in standard pitch. Almost, actually, 90% of my guitars are down a half step. And you know what it's like when you start monkeying with Floyds. You want to go down a half step, whatever, the spring tension, all that kind of stuff. And lo and behold, my black one, which was my main guitar for years, USA PV Wolfgang Standard. I tuned it up to concert pitch, and it was fine. There was no, you know, it wasn't floating anymore. Or anything like that, so I was lucky. So now I'm going to keep that one strictly as my standard pitch guitar. Why not, right? Because other than that, the only other one I had was my PRS. You know, but my main guitar that I play all the time, believe it or not, and I know you've probably heard me say this, is the Indonesian Standard from EVH gear. Just once you hop it up with Futone, man, oh man, that thing's a hot rod guitar. You know, it's fun.
I think you know, honestly, I definitely, like, I have to own a gold PV arch top at some point. Like that's one that I've been thinking about landing. You know, when you see them in good condition, I do love
solid
those.
gold one, like the solid gold.
The solid gold one. It's just it's kind of cool. And what's interesting about it is that, you know, when you think about Ibanez stuff and you think about this, as far as I'm concerned, I'm not necessarily like a Les Paul guy. I'll record with it. I'll track with it. I don't know if you know, a lot of times when I play live, I tend to go with these guitars, but I feel like in many ways they kind of have properties that some thicker, you know, hardtail Les Paul players, you know, would like if they ever tried them. So
yeah, for sure.
And I have I also have one of the custom shop ones as well.
Oh, very nice.
The hardtail, which is this one back here. I'm not sure if you guys
that.
see
Yeah, I can see it. I was eyeballing that before.
That thing is, that's. I mean, that's Fender's answer to the call of a Les Paul rival. I mean, with an EVH shaped neck, it's just it's a knockout.
And I know a lot of people will get mad at us for saying this, or get mad at me for saying, because I'm saying it right now. But I do think the ebony on that neck is a nicer ebony than a Les Paul.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you can even get the ebony. I mean, most people are getting the rich light and all that other stuff lately, coming out of the Gibson stuff. I mean, look, the Gibson stuff is amazing.
Sure
a lot of my buddies have some amazing Gibsons. I just actually got your best friend Tommy Thayer. I just picked up his. I just picked up his signature model Epiphone, and we hot rodded the heck out of it. And it plays probably better than the US Zakk Wylde that I had at one time, a long time ago. It's amazing. It's amazing what you could do. But, it's just everybody likes what they like. And that's what I think is the fun of guitar. So you meet somebody and they gravitate to this and you can't understand how they do, but they do. And it makes them happy,
That's right. And for the record, Tommy, I love you, man. I just had a mental breakdown. That's a good one. You know what? So all this fun talk, we're talking about guitars. We're talking about, mistaking the Kiss guys. Let's talk about the meat and potatoes of the show tonight. Let's talk about Guitar for a Cure. How did this come about? I know because I've researched you a little bit, but the fans don't know. Tell us a little bit about that whole concept. Go ahead.
Sure. So again, grew up my whole life. My parents were always supportive of my music. I've been a musician my whole life, gigging, playing, studying, all that stuff. Probably about a little bit of under 10 years ago, my mother came down with, she just wasn't feeling well, some changes in speech, some changes in her walk and things like that. And we were told that it was a diagnosis of ALS, which is Lou Gehrig's disease, for those who don't know what it is. At that time, I was starting to really start playing guitar a lot more. I was thinking about recording, I was writing, I was doing all these things. And all of a sudden something like that hits you and your family comes together and that's all it's about. But what was happening was that I found out she was ill, and from the time that she was ill to the time that she passed was only about 14 to 16 months. It was not long at all. And what I found was that at night, I would never want to break down in front of her, seeing what was happening to her. But at night, I would go out, when I would travel out to her house with my dad there, I would take my guitar with me. And I was writing at the time. And just before she fell ill, I had just written my first guitar instrumental song for her birthday. So I gave her that. She loved it. She would always walk around with the CD, and she was so proud of it. What happened was that as she was getting, there were days that it was filled with anger. There were days that were filled with emotion about things that we would communicate with, because she started to lose speech. So we would communicate through an Etch-a-Sketch, one of those toy things.
Yeah, that's nice.
And my wife, Lorna, who at the time I was dating, got to meet her, but that's the only way they communicated. They would actually sit there for like 8 hours, but they would communicate on this thing. So I was actually blessed that she was able to meet her. But at the time that she passed, when I was there, after she passed, I decided that it was really her and my father. When I think about it, I wouldn't play music if it wasn't for them. And I probably wouldn't enjoy it the way that I do. And in some respects, I think they always wanted me to enjoy, they wanted me to have a career, but they wanted me to also enjoy my music, and I just decided that, I wanted to channel all that emotion out at that time. And so I went into a studio out here on Long Island with a local guitarist who, by the name of Carl Roa. And Carl had a home studio. We did the recording there. I came to him actually with a hard drive, and I said, here are my songs. I did them with a Line 6 pod and a drum machine. And he listened to it and he was like, what, it's cool. He's like, but you have all that great equipment. Why don't we just track real guitars and redo the whole stuff? So the next thing you know, the whole thing started from the ground up, and we tracked the entire CD there. And as I was doing it, I was still very emotional about everything that had taken place. And I had this idea that what better way to give back than to actually educate people. I can't tell you how many times I meet people that say ALS, and they're like, what is that? Well, Lou Gehrig's disease.
You say that, then they recognize that, right? Sometimes
they recognize it, but they still don't know what it is 100%,
right.
and what it does to the person. So, and again, for those who are watching who might know, it's a myotrophic lateral sclerosis. And basically what happens is that you regain all of your mental capacities, but you slowly lose the ability to swallow, to walk. You're essentially not making the connection anymore where the neurons are supposed to be firing. And
it's
so
one of the worst diseases that doesn't have any treatment.
Yeah. And you know what? It's just weird. It could be the simplest thing, but I remember one night walking into my mother's room and, she had gone. I mean, it got to the point where, I had to carry her, if she had to go to the bathroom and things like that. But it was so weird to me because I could actually hear like certain things in my head about what was going on. So I decided that, she was really the one her and my father were the ones that were behind my whole passion for music. So I said to myself, you know what, I'm going to record this CD. And from this point forth, I'm just going to do something where everything I do for music, no matter what it is, I'm just going to give back 100% to Project ALS. Now, Project ALS there's the ALS Association, which treats people with ALS. And then there's Project ALS, who is the world's largest research for research.
Gotcha.
So they're kind of like the all-star team of researchers. So they've got doctors from all hospitals all around the world, all working together. And I'm not going to say I believe that there was going to be a cure while my mother was ill, and I'm not saying that it's going to be tonight, but I do know that some of the things that I talked to the president, Meredith Estes, about, that they are very, very on the cusp of finding something. So I just decided, for me, it was a way to help myself heal and to give back. So I started a 501c3 called Guitar for a Cure. Mm-hmm. And essentially anything I do, it could be from the sale of a wristband or a t-shirt or a digital download of my music or a purchase of a CD or a t-shirt or proceeds of a show or whatever it is. And I give that back to them.
That's fantastic.
And to date, it's been about probably about $40,000 to date. It's phenomenal. It's what I could do. And it's pretty rewarding, makes you feel good. And what makes you feel good really is when you get some of the messages I get through my website, which is my dad's suffering with ALS, and
similar stories that you've
it could be music related or not. It could be like, I read your thing, I just wanted to reach out. They just want somebody to understand what they're going through. Yeah. And then I got other people who are like, hey, I love the music, it's great, I really appreciate what you're doing. So it's satisfying on the guitar side. It's satisfying to me to know that I'm still trying to help my mother and those who have this disease.
It's phenomenal. And it's something that puts it in real perspective for me, because I'm uneducated for the disease. I don't know all about it. Mm-hmm. One thing that really hit home for us when we talked to Jason Becker on New Year's Eve there, and actually wasn't just from that alone, but watching his movie, people, when they are diagnosed with that, and I know you're going to know this firsthand, when they're diagnosed with that disease, they're hoping that the outcome is brain cancer, liver cancer, lung cancer, who I lost my mother to. They're hoping for that because there's always a little bit more of a hope.
Yep. And the interesting thing about it is that there's no actual test for there's no like, oh, we're going to take this blood test and it's going to tell us if it's ALS. They do an electrical test on your muscles and things like that. But what's interesting is that the people that I know since who've passed, most recently, there was a news reporter for one of the TV stations down in Virginia or someplace who was diagnosed. But when you heard his voice on air and then you heard his voice once diagnosed, it brought back so many things to me about my mother, because it was the same thing.
Sure.
So there's a lot of signs now. At the time, we actually thought it was Parkinson's.
Yeah.
So she was treating herself with Parkinson's at the time.
Similar symptoms.
Yeah, similar symptoms. And I just got to tell you, like, aside from friends and family, music is what gets you through the day. And it's what got me through that. And it's what's going to continue to get me through the rest of my life and continue to, you know, to give back to those people and to just do something. And honestly, so as a 501c3, I've been one of their biggest independent, you know, certainly there are these gala events that, you know, raise millions and millions of dollars, but from a grassroots standpoint, they absolutely love what I do, because it's going for a certain targeted audience of musicians, this audience that there are other people aren't necessarily doing. So they really, really love it and embrace it.
For a Canadian up here, can you tell me what I think I know what the answer is, but a 501(c), that's a charitable organization?
Yeah, so you're you become an actual official fundraiser, not for profit with them.
Right.
So
okay, gotcha.
So that was the first thing, and you know what's interesting is that it's not, you know, the idea of doing that. I quickly learned is not as easy as just setting up a PayPal account and saying, "Hey, send me the money." Because what I learned was after Hurricane, and I didn't know this at the time, but after like Hurricane Katrina, there were a lot of people just popping up with these things saying, "Oh, send us money. We're going to send food down to the thing," and these people were taking off with all the stuff. So it's not that easy. So all the different ventures I've done, the thing that I've done with Robert Keeley and the pedals, and all these other things for Project ALS is just a direct feed right to them. I'm just simply the middleman raising the awareness.
Very nice. And something that I was not prepared to share with you tonight because I didn't know all this whole story, but I'll share with the audience and share with you, which I know you'll appreciate. We have a bit of a common bond that I had no idea. Number one, I've lost both my parents, and I know Mark shares some similar stories too, and he'll probably contribute to this as well. I lost my mom to lung cancer.
Same here.
Yeah, there you go. And I lost my mom on her birthday. Literally, she was actually on an oxygen machine. She was down to one lung, and you know, on her birthday, we went out. This is weird. You died, and you know, you died on your birthday. Had pizza supper. Brought her up pizza. How you doing, Mom? Doing good. Oh yeah, I feel better today. Come out. You know, she get off her oxygen machine and light up a cigarette. And she passed away that night. And then you talk about the possibly the wrong diagnosis of Parkinson's. I lost my father to Parkinson's. He was an aircraft pilot, and they had to eventually take his license away because, you know, with the shakes and the tremors, you know, you don't want to be behind the wheel of an aircraft or the stick. And so, yeah, very similar. But, you know, the cool thing was I can totally appreciate, you know, you being the young kid at home playing. My mom was the same way, too. My dad was not as much encouraging. And when I mean, he was great, awesome. But my mom was the nucleus. I lost my mom first, and that was a much stronger blow to me than my dad. I love my dad, but if, you know, mom first, I think all of us, your moms, right? Yeah. But she'd be in the kitchen, and I've told the story a lot of times. She'd be just washing dishes, and I'm making this horrific, horrible noise in the bedroom with the guitar, you know, slide guitar and distortion and tubes, you know, and all kinds of crap. 15 metal zone pedals in a row, you know, the worst noise you could think of. And my mom's just sitting there washing dishes like it's a little lullaby, you know, a music box. And my dad came out one time to the shop and said, "Eric, look, let's get this over with right now. Here's a check. You tell me the number, and you stop playing, and this is yours, whatever." And I'm like, "Dad," you know what I mean? So our moms, right? Our moms for sure. Mark, do you have anything to contribute about that with the musical influence for you too?
You know, I'm actually, I didn't pick up guitar until later on. So drums was really probably the most annoying instrument to a parent. I guess. You know, crash. Yeah. So, you know, my mom was definitely encouraging about it, but the drums was always kind of like, oh, you know, you have to bang those things now, kind of thing. So it's a lot different, you know, than the guitar, which is a bit more melodic, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, music was always a big thing in my family, and with my mom, she loved the 50s and early 60s music, you know, like kind of like the Tony Bennett and you know, stuff like that, you know,
Les Paul, Mary Ford.
Yeah, you know, and Bobby Darin and all that stuff. You know, she loved all that stuff from the early 60s, and, you know, and then the 50s also, just like the 50s rock and roll. So my love of Chuck Berry and my love of you know, kind of Elvis as well comes from my mom. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. My mom always said to me, "Why can't you play like Chet Atkins? Why do you got to do this Van Halen thing?" Like Chet Atkins. And I mean, Chet Atkins was a big influence on me without me even really realizing it. I can't play Chet Atkins to save my life.
Oh, he's great though.
Yeah. You know, I mean, you know, it's interesting though, because I mean, when you think about, you know, everybody has different, you know, role models, and certainly your parents are your role models, you know, generally, but you know, nobody really had played music in my family. So it was kind of interesting because I just took it to this crazy obsession, and I just absolutely loved it. But, you know, right there with me was my father. When I would do the marching band for like 5 miles, he was right there next to me with the bottle of water and, you know, the towel me off. Like, he was there. And then he was there when I had to do the, you know, when I had to do the NISMA state competitions. He was in the waiting room with me. So there, yet, you know, it's amazing. I mean, you know, and that's the thing. Like, I have a six who just turned 7 the other day-year-old son. And, you know, he's learning piano now and he loves it. And, you know, he comes in here, he plays guitars, he plays drums, he does all these things. It's a wonderful thing. You know what I mean? It's like music is, it's a beautiful thing. There's too much bullshit in the world, and everybody should just take it easy and, you know, relax. So
my mom only got to see me play one time live, and I'm embarrassed by this because, you know, she encouraged me so much. And I was playing, I think we had a couple originals in the band, but we were a cover band. This is back in like the late 80s. And she come to see us play one time only. And we're, no, it'd be early 90s, I guess, whenever this come up from the Chili Peppers, but we're playing Suck My Kiss by the Chili Peppers. And we're embellishing the lyrics a little bit.
Right.
My mom's like, Eric, why would you, and then when your mom says Eric, or, you know, Peter or Mark, you know what I mean? It's like,
right.
Yeah, it was that was rough. My only time playing for her. But
yeah. And you know what's cool? I mean, like, the one thing that I always do, and I don't take it for granted at all, is that my father never misses a show. So
awesome.
So to this day, when my band gets into a club or we're doing something there, my father is always there. And
cool.
it's just a great thing. And, you know, it just makes me appreciate that if he didn't take me to that class, or I did something else, your whole life would just have gone down a completely different trajectory of like, what would I be doing? Not that it'd be a bad thing, but I'm just saying it's amazing how that pivotal moment, you know, and
that's what's going to be like for me.
And this is what happens.
There you go.
Exactly.
That's not a bad thing. That's
I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason.
I agree, Mark. I agree.
Yep. That's what the little Eric Jr. here. I'm not sure how much you've seen me doing stuff with him on YouTube and things like that. But the kid, I'm telling you, man, in about 2 more years, he's going to kick my butt. He's getting a Fender jazz bass for his birthday. He's gone from keyboard to guitar. He started on drums. And here's a funny story. He took one of those Fisher Price tables with these big light plastic legs about that big. He's in his diaper, flipped them upside down, and was using with drumsticks and was using that for a 4-piece drum kit. Graduated to guitar, keyboards. He's in the chat tonight. He was in there earlier. He's probably playing Minecraft with somebody right now. You know, he pops in, whatever. But it's I'm going to be there for him. I'm going to be like, okay, no. You stay away, you vultures. You stand away from this kid. You know, I'm going to manage his career. At least like get a doctor.
That's awesome.
There. Yeah, but
that's
you know
awesome.
What? We're at almost an hour into the program. Let's take a break and go over to. I'm going to have Mark man the chat, and then I'd like to come back and I'm going to have you introduce. What we're going to do for some prizing, and then you can tell what the prizes are, and I'll mention how we're going to give them away. So, Mark, let's say hi to some folks.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a lot of people watching, close to 50 people watching right now, 31 thumbs up, a lot of people in the comments section. I'll just say hi to a lot of folks. We got Rick Smith, Wyatt Hunt, Jaden James, Bag Cereals. I love that name.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I just love it. Rick Smith and Mark Z. How's it going? Frank C. Let me keep going. Poison Ivy. How you doing? I hate saying I hate
it's all good. It's all good.
Mauricio Giraldo.
Hey, we met him in NAMM, remember?
Did we? Oh yeah,
Mauricio.
Right. That's right, Mauricio. Yes,
yeah, he's a great guy.
Very cool. How are you doing? That was with his grandson, right?
Grandson or I forget who was. Yes, I believe so. No, that's Fred Berry.
Oh, Fred Berry.
You'll see him in the chat too. He was there as well. So yeah.
Okay. All right. Oh no, I do remember meeting Mauricio. You're right.
Christian was his grandson's name.
Yes. Okay. Cool. Zachary Sinner, Carlos Santon, Mike Ray. Lots of people. A lot of people are talking about. Ty asked, "Is that the lunchbox too?" I knew that question was coming up.
Yep.
Yeah, and that is the lunchbox too. So why don't we pause right there, Peter? Why don't you tell us about the lunchbox 2 that you got there and when you got it?
Good one.
Yeah, I got it. I got it last week. So So I've always been gigging with the 50-watt amp. It's everybody has things that they say, and they've been writing since the beginning of that about the volume jump from clean to the blue channel, all this stuff and everything. But I've always gigged with the 50. I absolutely love my 50. I retubed it, made some tweaks to it. The blue channel on it to me is it's amazing. I'm not much. I love red. It's great, but I'm a clean guy and I'm a blue channel guy. That's really what it comes down to. So I'll probably kick an EP booster or some kind of boost on the blue channel. So anyway, I've had that amp. I've also got a Soldano over here. I got a Friedman, a Cameron modded, Marshall JCM, and a Cornford. But what's interesting is that I gig out with the EVH, and I've always loved the blue channel. So, but I've not gotten any of the new incarnations. So I never had the Stealth. I did not get the new EL 34, but this actually piqued my interest because the first version of the Lunchbox, again, was blue and red. But I was kind of always thinking that it would be great if they did it with a dedicated clean, because I like a clean channel. I love modulation for writing when I use a clean channel. And again, I love the blue. So I talked a little bit with Howard Kaplan about the amp when it was released and what it was about. And I just had the opportunity the other day. One of the places, one of the guys who I purchased some of my gear from had one, and I picked it up, and it's incredible. It's incredible. It's really cool to put the clean channel. I mean, clearly you could toss your drives on it, get that gritty mid gain setting. I actually did a like a live Facebook thing on one of the pages I belong to called Groom Noodlers. Nice. Which is my good friend Alex King. We've known each other for a long time here. So I did a live feed of that, and I was just showing the different settings. And now with the new concentric knobs and the leveling out of everything, and it's blown me away. So that I really was not crazy planning to get it, because I just recently picked up a Hughes and Kettner, their new 40-watt, and I've been starting to gig and rehearse with that, and I love it. But the EVH is killer. It's great. Fantastic. And I have one question, just because it's for my own selfish gains. Yeah. Is that possibly a fastback pedal board you have there? No, that is that's another thing that I've just become addicted to. It's called they're called Holy boards. Okay. I'm not sure if you've checked them out, but if you haven't, you must. So as somebody who just could not stand Velcro after a while, it's coming off, it's peeling off. Which I have right now. Right, which is great, and it's fine. But the Holy boards is cool because it's a different premise. It's basically these wood boards. That one over there is a smaller one. Over here on this rig, I've got a bigger one. And all your pedals are wire tied on. Nice, I like that. So I run the George L cabling through the holes. You get it all nice and tight and fit. You wire tie your pedals on. If you want to switch out a pedal, you just snip the wire tie, put the new pedal on, wire tie one back on. That's it. You can physically tip the pedal board upside down and they're not going to fall off. I actually go to rehearsal. It came with like a shoulder bag, but when I go to rehearsal, I don't even bring it. I just carry the board out of the house with me. Nice. Put it down. The brick is mounted underneath, and it's my favorite thing. I've sent them so many people to get boards ever since they've checked these out. They're awesome. The reason why I mentioned that, because it does look a little bit like the Fastback. I'm going to be working very closely very soon here with Idea Bench, and they make the product called Fastback, and they actually, if you run out of space, they snap on the next thing, and they're circular like that as well. But here's something that's really cool, and I think you'll appreciate this, and I am learning from this so much. Our friends Jody at Pedal Snake there, he's on a mission right now to get me to get rid of my noise suppressor, because I use the Boss NS2. Eddie used to use the old, the noise, the Smart Gate and the rack format, things like that. Yep. And people will correct me on that because he's gone through different ones, but he did use it at one time. And I took everything off my board because I've outgrown my board. It's a home built board with carpeting type of thing with Velcro, and it just gets collected with your pet hair, dog hair, and things like that. Of course, yeah. A mess. Took it apart, and I was really embarrassed because I had everything on the floor back there, and I was like, you know what? Until this Idea Bench comes in, I got to get my pedals back on the board. And Mark and I were talking back and forth about this. He's like, dude, you need to condense your board because I've got a DD500 and I had two Boss DD3s. Why do I need those two DD3s? I'm not going to sell them.
That's a lot of delay going on.
That's a whole lot of delay, and I love delay.
Yep. So those are gone. And thank you, Mark. So that did help me. Then I started looking. I had 2 different overdrives, and I'm not going to say on the show which one I've kept, which one I haven't kept. Most people know which one I did. And I've taken off, which is really sad. I'm not a hypocrite by saying this, but with Jody's, he has a noise manual on pedalsnake.com, and it helped me fantastic, because everything was working as it was. But when I started taking things apart, putting things back together, that's when you realize you have problems sometimes. And a pedal that I swear by and I swore by was my BBE Sonic Stomp. And I'm not sure if I had told Mark this yet. I think I did.
You did.
Yeah. And it's coming off my board now. You know why? Because in Jody's manual on pedalsnake.com, he says, okay, start with everything. You got some hum. Okay, now go back to the drawing board, 1 pedal at a time. Add your second one, your second one. And there's several things that came into the factor with that. One, I'm running several things through my loop, and it's either through the 100-watt there or else through the lunchbox as well. They both take pedals just as well. Through the loop, I'm running a DD3, the DD500. I'm running the Boss RV5 reverb. I'm running an OC3 octave. And I'm running, at the time, the NS2 noise suppressor. Through the front of the amp, I'm using your traditional wah phaser flanger. What else I got? J-Rockets, Tranquilizer, Analog Chorus, EVH5150, and a tuner, right? So what my thinking was too is I need to isolate those power supplies. Obviously, the MXR flanger is an 18-volt. That's on its own. But I want to eventually have a 9-volt power supply supplying all the things to the front of the amp. I want a second one to everything going through the loop.
Yep. That
BBE just did not play nice. So sadly, I took it off, and I'm not a hypocrite because I've said this in the videos that it's awesome, but I'm liking my tone again without it. So we all change, right?
It all changes. And you know what? I mean, you could say that about a noise suppressor, but the bottom line is like I've got one in every loop of my rigs just to get rid of some unwanted noise. So over here on this board, which is my studio board here, I run an ISP G-string there in the loop. And here's the other thing about the lunchbox for whoever it was that asked about that. It has the blue channel on it has significantly more gain than the 50-watt.
Yes.
And the traditional. So your gain at 10 to 11 o'clock is the
like
equivalent of like 2 o'clock on on your 50-watt or whatnot. So it's interesting from that standpoint, but like anything else, I mean, these amps, I love them. They're incredible, but I'm also this weird way about extraneous noise. And so I like to cut it out without choking the sustain or the notes or anything. So I dial it in. I have an NS2. I've got it all over there. It's actually set up on that head right now, but you wouldn't know that it's there, but it just cuts out enough of it that,
Yeah, it's more just a hiss than it is noise. And when there's a difference in people, that's where I learned too. There's a difference between a hiss and a hum. Hum will come from your voltage. Hiss will come from gain and things like that.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, like I did a show a couple nights back, just me jamming some of the band songs, and Jody was listening, and he's like, "What'd you do?" And I didn't even have the noise suppressor on, and it was beautiful. So it was a real eye opener, and I really encourage people to read it. Even people that are seasoned veterans, you probably know it all, but there's some things that I thought I knew a lot of that stuff, and it was a real eye opener. So enough of that. Anyways, we'll let Mark circle back to the chat, and when we come back, let's talk about some of these prizes.
Sure.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
Greg Walker. He says, KY in the house, money in the jar. I didn't say in the house tonight, but now I did. So
that doesn't count. That doesn't count because you're repeating. That's all good.
That's all right. I'll put a little money in the jar for Peter's charity. So
all right. Hey, there we go. There we go. Guitar for Cure.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
There you go. We got Scott MacArthur who says, love seeing the Soldano slow in the background. Is that a slow?
It's not. It's actually a Hot Rod 50 Plus. So
that's still a great amp. Yeah.
It's an amazing amp, and I've played the SLOs and I love them. But that amp to me, which is pretty much 90% of what my first CD is I've used that amp on that whole CD. It's like the holy grail of tone, that amp, and I love it. It's got the only mod on that one is it's got the resonance knob on it, but it's a 2-channel, clean and dirty. But it's if anybody has my first CD or takes a listen to a lot of the rhythm tracks on my tunes, it's that Soldano. It's a great amp, and I think they make the Hot Rod 100 now, but the 25, the smaller one, but I don't know if they're making the 50. I also, the other thing, just to tell you guys, is I tend to love 50-watt heads. I just tend to like the way you can drive them a little bit more. Clearly, the JJ Friedman is its own insane awesomeness in 100-watt, but you know, most of my gigging amps are 50 watts.
So your Friedman is the JJ?
The JJ, yes.
Oh, that amp is killer.
Yeah, it's a killer amp. I picked it up. It actually has the foot switchable mod where it levels out the BE and the JBE. So it was a mod that Friedman did, but it's a phenomenal amp. And the one thing about that amp that I'm not sure a lot of people know is the clean is just incredible. It's incredible clean channel.
That tone in that isolation room at NAMM, I'm telling you, like some people were saying, and this, I mean, I'm not comparing Friedman to EVH or EVH to Boss or to you know, Marshall or anybody, but some people, I think it might even been Guitar World, and some of their reviews, they were saying, arguably saying, the Friedman tone was some of the best tones at NAMM. And Mark and I were there. I mean, our ears were bleeding. No one on the floor heard it, but it was beautiful, wasn't it, Mark?
Yeah, I've been in that room, man.
Yeah, it's killer. It's a killer room. You know, Dave's definitely got the right idea about how to set up at NAMM and let people hear what's going on. I'm curious about the JJ. How much gain is on tap on that thing? Is there a lot of gain on it?
There's a lot. There's a lot of gain. I again, with my amps, I tend to run them like 12, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock. I'm not really pegging the gain. I'm running an EP booster that's on all the time.
Yeah, I love the EP. That's a great
EP
pedal.
booster. To me, I keep it at 9 o'clock, practically not on, at like, you know, like barely on, but it just adds a roundness to everything. But the JJ, it gets like, you know, like wicked. You get what you think when you think Cantrell, and you think about, you know, the riff to Them Bones or any of that stuff. Yeah. That's it's that tone. It's just that tone.
That's right. Cool. And I'm glad you mentioned that. Both of you have the EP, and I'm going to say something that's very important with it as well too. It kind of goes back to the pedal snake thing. Jody was saying too. That's a very, very important thing, and I didn't really realize this. The more pedals you have, you're losing that signal. You need that. You need to actually, believe it or not, back in the day, Eddie used to use, what was it? The Echoplex. Well, yeah, it's Echoplex for sure, because that's where the circuitry came from. But he also used, and I don't remember the Boss pedal, and the people will argue this till the cows come home, but he was using a super overdrive or something.
Yeah.
But he was driving his wah because with the pedals that he had, obviously more modern, but not super modern here, that signal was being lost.
The buffer,
yeah. And I forget what it was. Was it a super overdrive or whatever? One of those. It wasn't a DS1. I think it was an overdrive or a super overdrive. But that's very, very important to get rid of that and not crank it. Just a little bit to increase your signal going in for that loss.
Yeah, the EP is perfect for that.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that. And it's so weird. It's gotten to the point now where I can tell when the EP is not on. Like, when it's not on. It's not that the amp doesn't sound good without it. I mean, it sounds incredible. But there's just some kind of I've always described it as a sonic hug. It gives like this weird, it gives this weird sonic hug to the sound. And the JJ is just it's an incredible amp. I mean, I've been in that room. I went to NAMM last year, and I was supposed to go out this year, but I've been to many NAMMs. But last year when I was in that booth, I mean, that's just, first of all, everything's wet. You know, that whole setup is wet, dry, wet in there. So you could sit and play. You could sit and play that thing for like 5 days straight. It would just sound incredible.
Yeah, it did. You're right. He had some good effects going on in there.
The SD3000s were running there in stereo.
Yeah, and I didn't even know what amp was on when the guy was playing.
Yeah. You never know. You really don't know. You know, you could be playing, you know, the Bucks and Betty. You have no idea, but it all sounds great. You know.
Yeah, and interesting enough, I saw a video from Henning Pauly doing a review, and they were switching between the Runt and like the BE. Yeah. And it sounded so similar that Henning says to me, he goes, why would you make I'm not going to do a good impersonation of it. He was like, why would you make this amp when, you know, don't you want to sell this one?
Yeah. He's hilarious.
What are you doing? So, but yeah, it was really a cool room. Jumping back into the chat, we also had another comment about your EVH custom, Edward Preet. Pretz said, loves the EVH custom, Peter. Talk some sense into Alex.
Yeah, that's funny. No, yeah, Alex had a hardtail, but he had the relic version of it, which was, the relics, custom. Here, let me grab this one just so I can show you a little bit.
Sure thing.
Yeah, this is pretty. I mean, this is it's a pretty special guitar when you think about it. I mean, first of all, it's just a big ass, chunk of mahogany, but it's a great guitar. I mean, it sounds great. And what's interesting about it is that I love the the Wolfgang pickups, but what's interesting is that in this body, they take on a bit of a different life. It just. I won't say they're of course high gain no matter what, but they just it just sings in this guitar. It really, really does. So I picked this up when I first got it. This was the first run with the original neck heel. Since then, the version of it has a bit more of a sculpted one. And I was like, oh, I'll get rid of this one, maybe sell it and pick up that one. But every time I just look at this thing, I'm like, I just, why would I do that? And it's a traditional neck heel.
Yeah, and you know what? You're probably getting a little bit more sustain with a bit more chunk there.
It's a big it's definitely pretty heavy, but I love it. And what's interesting about it is when you see it, you're like, oh, this is gonna have like a big, like Les Paul type neck or whatever. But it's your typical Wolfgang neck on this big block of mahogany. So it's really, really cool. But this is amazing. I've recorded with this. It sounds incredible. But the US Stealth is, kind of my, I just that guitar is like magic to me.
Very
beautiful,
cool.
Absolutely beautiful.
Yeah. A good friend of mine has that guitar, different color, I think, but he showed it to me, and I love it. I even like the headstock with the different inlay.
I love it. Yeah, it's very, very cool. And again, look, I've had the import stuff. I've had the specials. I've had the standards. I've had all of them. They're all incredible. They're amazing.
Yeah.
They all play great. You can mod all of them out. Just trick them out. They sound great. I love the binding on the US ones. I know it's like aesthetically, it just looks really, really cool. And
it's like putting some rims on your car.
Yeah, it's exactly the same thing. It's like the spinning hubcaps that I have.
Not that far.
Yeah, I got them.
It's the car's jumping up and down.
Yeah, exactly.
But on that one, actually, on the custom, I think it has more binding than it actually had on the regular USA, right? Or is that just 5-ply? Is that 5-ply?
It's a 5-ply binding on it.
Okay.
But it's also on the Stealth, but I'm not sure if it's yeah, I just think the difference there is that the binding on this one is white on the sides, and I don't think over there that it is. So that's really the only difference.
And while we're at it, you want to talk about the two guitars that are behind you on the ottoman there?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me grab one of these, show you guys. So the story behind this one is, I'd say probably about 2001. I'm sure you guys know Young Guitar magazine from Japan. And I had been getting the magazine, when I could purchase it in a store in New York City that had the Japanese publications there. And I purchased an issue, and I got home, and there was an ad for Ikibi guitar store in Japan. And this was going back. So you're talking about 2000, 2001. But there was an ad for Ikibi, and there was an ad for two versions, this and the Relics 5150 version. And it just had typical format in that magazine. It's like 100 guitars on a page in an ad with like $1 amount in yen, and you can't figure anything out. So all I know is that when I saw this, the first thing I said was, I got to find a way to get that. I don't know how. So I just remember trying to call over there. I could barely communicate what it was, but I just know that I explained this guitar, and I gave my credit card number, and I was like, I was just like, I gotta get this. So I don't know. Next thing you know, I remember calling back to the store, and nobody understood what I was saying, and the guy wasn't there, and I was like, what's going on? But it showed up. and the guy must have sold it to me because they weren't supposed to ship outside the U.S. But anyway, long story short, with this guitar, this was like, I think that there were about 10 of them made. So you might say to yourself, okay, here's the 5150 headstock, but here's the Frankenstein type body with the reflectors and the whole nine on this side. But essentially, this was a limited run that was done at the time in Japan. I believe it derived out of the ESP factory somehow over there at the time. And this was back when...
Obviously, illegally.
Yes, obviously. It was not, yes. It was... There was a limited number in the store somehow made by some custom luthier that I understood to be somebody that might have been related to that family over there somehow. So, but anyway, it's an incredible guitar. It came over, original Floyd, vintage PAF pickup in here, Goto tuners. Again, the headstock it's the 5150 type headstock. But this guitar plays like I can't even tell you. It's phenomenal, and it didn't come with a D-tune. I popped that on, but
that guitar at one time did have the 5150 headstock on it. It had a banana headstock on it at one point.
Yeah, you don't see the photos of it that much. I mean, you tend to see like the music, the typical Fender Strat type, style head on it. But anyway, it's an incredible guitar. It came from Japan. I did put a block in it, and but I play it. I play it a lot, and I love it. But it's not. I didn't actually relic it myself.
Right.
But they did a great job on it. Never saw it again over there.
Doesn't surprise me.
I'm only ashamed that I only wish that I had probably snagged the 5150 version as well. But now EVH is coming out with it, so it's great. So
yeah, exactly. You can grab one of those, get an official one.
Yeah, and I love that satin finish on that thing. A lot of people are saying I don't like the satin finish.
Oh, I love
that thing. Is incredible, especially when you compare it to the gloss.
Yeah, no, I love it. It looks really, really cool. For me, it's I tend to love I love the Wolfgang stuff. I'll show you this other one over here, this other striped one, but that's this one. So let me grab this one.
Very nice.
Sure. So this is this is not much of a surprise to anybody which one this is. This is the actual EVH version of it. But ever since I bought a guitar, picked up a guitar, needed anything done on a guitar, I've only been going to the same guy that does work on my guitars. Happens to be a good friend of mine here, does a lot of guitars here on Long Island for a lot of friends of mine. Phenomenal luthier from a standpoint of repair, fretwork, finish work, all this stuff. He does relics. So I had the Bumblebee, and if it was maybe 3 weeks ago that we did the show, this thing was brand new. But he just did the relic work on it, and it came out phenomenal. So if you take a look here, it's all the the back.
Nice.
I love it.
Yeah, and I got to tell you something. It's just, we did the neck. The neck just feels. I mean, this neck was always great on it. Before we did the relic work, though, I did put in a neck pickup into this, so I kind of modded it out myself. So the pickups in this is a DiMarzio Andy Timmons in the bridge, and a Satch track in the neck.
Wow,
this guitar is incredible, and I just love it even more now with the relic on it. It's just
feels worn.
It just feels great. Yeah, it's a great guitar. It's also really, I've always found this guitar to be very heavy. It has a bit of a darker tone. It's not as, even though it's a maple neck, it's not as bright as, say, the other one back there.
You know something that inspired me with that, and I don't know why I never thought of this before, and I know Sandra Lee Poison Ivy is going to kill me when I say this, but because of that, because I have the black and white EVH stripe one as well too, I wouldn't mind doing a relic on that myself as well too. Like, I mean, what can I really lose? Chop it up a little tiny bit and give it, because I'm babying that thing all the time. And I picked that off the stand the other day, and I blame the boy. I think he came in here when I wasn't looking. I think he knocked off the stand because it was completely. When you have a guitar, you pick up, it's like,
it's out of tune.
Oh yeah, I'm like, Eric, what did you do? I didn't do it.
I've said that to my son too before, like, you know, and one time I walked by, my guitar was sitting on the couch, and I saw him just playing with he was just sitting there watching his iPad, and his hands like this on the tuners or on the bridge, and he's just messing with it. I'm like, you see, I walk by, that's what you're doing. I go, you're doing. It's like, I'm like,
it's interesting though. I mean, it was brand new, and I was playing it, and I loved it, but I have like 3 other guitars that he's relicked for me. My buddy Sal Tyne, out here on Long Island, he's just phenomenal. And every one he's done has just been absolutely incredible. If I show you the Strat he did, it's mind-boggling. But this guitar, it was brand new and everything. But since I've gotten it back, I feel like I play it differently now. Yeah. So there's no two ways about it. Some people don't like relic stuff. Some people like it. I love it. I just think it's cool, you know.
Oh, Mark, if I can just address something real quick, and I'm going to have you go back to chat in a second. There was some confusion. We have a new member in the chat, and he was expecting to see some playing here on the show. And this is an environment tonight where we're just kind of showing guitars. We're talking about guitars.
Yeah.
And he is new, so we're very thankful to having a new subscriber, a new watcher of the show, a viewer of the show. In this technology that we're using tonight, even if we could play, even if Peter could play as great as guitar player as he is, it would not sound conducive. It would not sound. It'll actually sound like he's playing under a swimming pool. So it's one of those things where you just can't. So
yeah,
we can maybe have Peter on another a show, and we'll plug him in a different way. And we're talking to Sean Silas in the chat there as well too. Sean's an extreme
Sean.
Yes, we'll have all these guys come on different shows, and it'll be a performance show where you can actually hear and really appreciate it. It's just
absolutely
technology tonight does not permit for what we're doing. As you notice, the voice is just kind of garbled a little bit. It's made mainly for voice, so no hard feelings there. And Jack, so thank you for watching tonight. Just want to clear that up as well.
Sure.
All right.
But I honestly love these relics. I play them a lot. But the Wolfgang stuff for me. I know people have said it's crazy that white Wolfgang, the relic that they put out last year, the tour edition, how overpriced it is, but it is just such a cool guitar. I mean, I don't know what you guys think about it.
Oh yeah.
It's a great guitar.
Which guitar? I'm sorry.
Last, the EVH relic from the last tour.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's gorgeous.
I mean, that's just a nuts guitar. I mean, I know it's crazy money, but that's just, I don't know. I love it.
If I had the cash, I'd buy it.
Yeah.
If it.
Yeah. Wait, let's see that again. That one. Yeah, that one.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
That picture's awesome.
I took that one.
That's great. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's a great picture.
Yeah. You know how many photos I shot at that concert? I think I shot 4,500 photos.
Oh, crap.
Yes,
Jesus.
Actually about 35.
Did you watch the concert, or
that was in 15 minutes. I had media pass access through Live Nation for 15 minutes. I caught the first 3 songs, 2 bodies. You can actually see the bodies behind me. There's one back there.
Yeah, I see that one.
Yeah, there's one over there, and it was very, very cool. Actually, it was there with Niels Losauer's best friend. He was actually from the Toronto agency shooting photos here as well too. And you know what was really cool about that? So we go over. Everyone, like there's probably about 12 of us. We're ushered in, and we're literally at, I could touch where my webcam is right now. That's Eddie Van Halen's foot.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone went to the center of the stage, and they're planning themselves at David Lee Roth. I'm like, this is freaking great. I put my feet down, and I put my weight. Like I actually hurt my legs because I put my weight on my feet. If anyone's coming at me, they're gonna, they're not hitting me. And I was body to body to body with camera body. And I wish I had the lens that I have now. I have a 70-200, which I can actually see. I could see, with craziness. Yeah, and it just snap. And the one that's back.
That's awesome.
I know Janie and Eddie had seen those photos as well too, and I sent them to them, and they were very appreciative of them. So I love that one because at that one back there, Eddie's looking at me, and I said, "Pick like this," and Eddie actually went to grab a pick from his mic stand. And then he was going to do a riff, and he had to go back. It's like when you go to grab a pick, you had to get back to a riff.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to the riff, and then I was like, I missed out on it. But he's smiling right there at you, right?
That's really cool. I don't know if you guys, I don't know if you could see it from here, but I'm here in my studio room, and I could turn it a little bit. You can see it a little bit this way, but I have 3 incarnations of the Eddie era on mounted on canvas.
Love that.
Here. Yeah, I found a guy who did this, and so I've got the the early, I've got the 5150 era, and then I've got the 1984. So it's actually pretty cool. So, but I love those pictures you took. I did the VIP on the last tour, the package. So to go to the sound check, and that was the most surreal thing ever, which was.
I can imagine. Something I'll talk about with you off the air. Maybe maybe we'll work out something because I've got some good photos. Maybe I can provide one. You can sell it, and we'll work on some licensing things, whatever. But all the proceeds can go to the Guitar for a Cure as well.
That's awesome. That would be great. That was awesome. Very cool. Very cool.
I'll work that out with you because I'd like to do that, and I don't want anything in return for it whatsoever. But we'll pick something that's really cool and go.
That's awesome.
But you know what? Let's talk about you got thanks to you have some crazy prizes you're giving away and tonight. Lastly, I saw a message on Facebook. I didn't even get to the whole thing. You and Mark were talking about it. Yeah. So there's an extra little bonus. Yeah. Yep. So I'm going to say how to do this, and then I'm going to turn over to you to tell us what it is.
What it is.
What's going to happen, folks? After this video is done, which is going to be in probably about 10 minutes, we're going to be done the show in about 10 minutes. It takes a few minutes for the video to go, on YouTube, and you can watch it back. Then comments will be available. You can't comment on the video right now, but once comments are available, a few minutes after the show, we want you to comment and say, how has Eddie Van Halen's music inspired you, influenced you, that kind of thing. Give us a comment and say how that's happened. We're going to, what it's done for you. We're going to let the comments run until 9 p.m. This Sunday night. We're going to cut it off. I'm going to jump back in there at 9 o'clock, and I'm going to say contest is over. And we're going to pick one random comment, and Peter's going to tell you what you can win.
Yeah, all right. So we got a couple of cool things. So one of the first things that we're going to be doing is I love New Neighbor pedals. New Neighbor pedals, if you guys have not checked out New Neighbor reverb pedals and their Immerse pedal or their wet reverb pedal, check it out. But we're going to be giving away one of their Seraphim shimmer pedals. So if you love to turn on your amp on a clean channel and just get really amazing atmospheric, just really spacey kind of long reverb settings, this pedal is incredible. So courtesy of New Neighbor pedals. So you can enter to win this.
I watched a demo on that because I knew nothing about it, and it sounded beautiful.
Yeah, it's an incredible pedal. When you put it onto your cleans, it's just it's magic. We're going to be giving away a couple of boxes of Diodario strings, NYXL. I work with Diodario. They're an incredible company. These strings are amazing. So we're going to be giving away a couple of boxes of those.
I love those strings, by the way.
They're amazing.
They're one of my favorites.
Yep. We're going to be giving away a couple, two of clip lock, DiMarzio clip lock straps, which are amazing. I'm sure all you guys know those. Again, each of these things that we're mentioning here are going to be coming with everything that's being given away is going to be coming with one of my CDs, bracelet, picks, stickers, all the swag that's going on right now that I've got. And so we've got those things. I'm just trying to think what was the other item was. Let me think.
Was that the
oh, yes.
The tickets?
The Intune. Yeah, no, the Intune. One other thing is we're going to be giving away a bag of custom-made guitar picks to the winner. So you supplied the artwork. You're going to have a bag of 100 custom-made guitar picks, courtesy of Intune picks. I've been using Intune picks for quite some time. They're just amazing. So whatever shape you guys want, they'll run them off. And I'll put you guys in touch with them, and you'll get 100 picks. And then the last thing was something that just came up today that I reached out to these guys about. So we're going to be giving away 4 tickets to the Project ALS event called A Night to Believe. And so Project ALS has a night once a summer at Citi Field here in New York for the Mets. So July 18th, it's going to be 4 VIP tickets to the event, food, drinks at the pre-party, seats for the game, the whole 9 yards.
That's
and
amazing.
we're going to be giving away 4 tickets to that. You'll be able to meet the people that are there. I'll be there. It's a great event that Project ALS does. They raise a lot of money that night, and so whoever wins the tickets could, if they're out of town, they could possibly plan a trip to New York around it or whatever. So, and those are courtesy of Project ALS.
Absolutely fantastic.
It's amazing. Yeah.
Totally love this. So here's what we're going to do. We've talked to Peter off the air, and we said we're going to get him back Monday night. We're going to come back Monday night at 9 o'clock, same time that we usually do our shows on Friday. So 9 o'clock is our sweet spot. And to come back on, it's going to be a very brief show, probably 10, 15 minutes. We're just going to announce the winner. So comment all weekend long. You can go ahead if you want. There's no limits. If you want to comment multiple times, knock yourself out. But please keep them positive. I mean, there's no reason why to be negative on the show anyways. But tell us how Eddie's influenced you and what he's done for you as a guitar player, or maybe you're a manufacturer or a builder or whatever it is. Just let us know what he's done for you. We're all big EVH fans, obviously. That's what that fuels the show. So I really have nothing else to say other than I'm very grateful for your time, Peter, and nice to finally meet you virtually, kind of, whatever.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love you. Honestly, here's the thing. It's like, everybody has something to say these days about something, and this could be better and this, whatever. When I was a kid, if there was ever a show that I could go and hang out on and talk to people who were as passionate about this equipment, this music, and all this stuff, it's a beautiful thing. So I thank you guys. I tune in all the time. It's a great escape from the rigors of everyday life. And if you can't comment about how Eddie influenced you on that thing, then you should be watching the video of the bread that you were talking about at the beginning.
That's a good one. Thank you for being attention. That's a good one.
Okay,
there you go. Let's bring it full circle.
Eric is going to post that later for us. So before you go to bed, you can listen to that. All right.
And I have to credit my son because I know right now he's saying up there right now, he's saying, "Dad, you're going to credit me with that, right? Dad, you're going to credit me." So yes, Eric Jr., I'm going to credit you with that.
That's awesome.
I got to say, 40 some odd people watching right now, 46 thumbs up, and that's all because of you, Peter.
Cool, man.
Not because of us. So thank you very much.
No, thank you guys.
Phenomenal. Mark, I'm going to turn it on over to you just to close out the evening.
Just want to thank you, Peter, for coming on. Everybody, please check out Guitar for a Cure, right?
.com.
Is there
if you go to there's a website, guitarforacure.com. You can go on, you can sign up for the mailing list. All my music is you can purchase CDs and stuff through the site. In addition to which, you could get them on any of the digital outlets as well. The digital outlets have the last 3 tunes that I did, which feature Brian Tishy on drums. Brian's from, you'll know Brian from the Bonzo Bash and Whitesnake and Foreigner and all that stuff, as well as a couple of other special guitar guests on those tracks. Bruce Boulay from Racer X.
Nice.
Yeah, he guests on a tune called Terrestrial Chatter. Halo. All 3 tunes include my bass player Ethan Mikesel here on Long Island and some other guest musicians. And the new track that I have coming up, if you stay tuned and check out my website, the new track coming up also has Brian Tishy on drums, but it also has a guest appearance by Ty Tabor of King's X. So so definitely stay tuned and check out the stuff. And again, anything, whether it's digital or hard copy in any way, goes to Project ALS.
Phenomenal. Fantastic. Amazing. Raising money for a great awareness. Awareness is the first thing. Raising money for it to make a difference is a great thing. We're very lucky there's people like you in the world doing that. Thankful to have you on the show. We're going to be looking forward to having you back on Monday night and congratulating a lucky winner. And it's going to be phenomenal. Someone's going to walk away with some really, really cool stuff.
Yeah, we got a lot of goodies. So enter to win. And, you can pick up a strap, a pedal, some strings, some picks, or tickets to a really awesome event here in New York,
Fantastic.
So whoever comes in, we'll have to talk about EVH gear.
Guaranteed. And Peter, something we'll do in the near future too, we'll look at something towards the spring, here in Canada when the weather gets a little nicer. Yeah. It's always nice down your guys' way, but we'll have you back and we'll do a performance type of a show where you can plug in and let's hear some of those cool amps from the Soldanos to the 5150s and the Lunchbox, all that kind of cool stuff. So everyone, have a rock and roll, phenomenal weekend. Check out guitarforacure.com. Link is in the description of this video. Learn a little bit more about it and just see what you can do just to educate yourself first and then do what you need to do from that point on. But educate yourself for sure and pass on the word. Have a great weekend. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Thank you for making us 2,500 subscribers and putting that number in the rearview mirror. We look forward to celebrating 10,000 with you someday. Have a phenomenal weekend, everyone. And Peter, don't go away. We're gonna order our pizza right now and have a refreshment.
Sounds good.
Have a good night, guys.
Night, guys.
Take care, everyone. Cheers.